kindly. Thank you. Good evening and welcome. It's been clear to us today that really there's been one main controversy in Britain today. It wasn't wars anywhere or anything else. It was the differing views on one television programme last night on a channel known as the BBC. The Beatles' music brings unanimous enthusiasm and approval pretty well. Last night their television show did not bring unanimous enthusiasm and approval, and everyone seems to have been discussing it today. Here is the man most responsible, Mr. Paul McCartney. Top of the evening.
Good evening, Mr. Brooks.
Good evening, Mr. McCartney. Why don't you think that the critics like this film?
I don't know, they just didn't seem to like it. I quite liked it myself.
Well, I liked it. I saw it. I didn't see it last night because I was a bit busy, but I saw it today, and I liked it, with reservations and so on. But why were people so puzzled by it? Do you think?
I think they thought it was bitty, which it was a bit, but it was supposed to be like that. I think a lot of people were looking for a plot, and there wasn't one.
What was the? How many people in the audience here actually saw it? Could you put it in your hands? I saw it in colour, though, so I've got two. You can see it on colour on BBC Two on January the 6th. This is BBC have bought all the advertising time tonight. But now, were you puzzled by the? Yes. Anyone like to ask Paul a question about it to sort out the answer to something they were puzzled about? Yes. Could you stand up because we can't see you otherwise?
No.
And now for 16 pounds.
Yeah. Well, that's what seems to have happened, But we thought that we could just do a thing. You see, we've been waiting for a couple of years now to make another feature film. And we've been asking people to write stories and write plots. In fact, targets. But nobody's come up with one, So we thought we would do something which isn't like that, which isn't like a real film in as much as it's got a story and a beginning. We'll just do a selection of, we put together a lot of things that we like the look of and see what happens. I liked it.
Lady in the fourth row there, yes.
No.
There's the gentleman next. Oh, there are airports in the West Country Airport. But the AIM thing is interesting. What did you have a point in mind when you? Some point to get across at all when you do this?
No, that's the trouble. It seems that you've got to do everything with a point or an aim. But we tried this one without anything, with no point, no aim. It's like, we make it a record album. And all the songs don't necessarily have to fit in with each other, They're just a selection of songs. But when you come to making a film, I don't know, you seem to have a thread to pull it all together. But we thought that doing a mystery tour, it all happens on a bus to this group of people, would be enough of a thread. And then calling a magical mystery tour, which is like a firm advertises a magical mystery tour, and you go on it, and it really is magic. Then anything might happen there, and it wouldn't have a thread if it was magic. To get serious for a moment, David?
I'm glad you did. But I was seeing it today, it was in different circumstances, in the sense that I saw it when people had been saying it wasn't good, whereas, of course, last night people saw it thinking it was going to be marvellous. But in the case of what you were saying there, what's the difference between what you were trying to do here and, say, if you took an EP, which indeed most people have, of Magical Mystery Tour, and played that while looking at a kaleidoscope?
Yeah.
Assuming it was quite a varied kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
What's the difference between that and what you did? Was that what you were trying to do?
No, that's the trouble, you see. That's the thing, that there's no real difference between that, except that we had people in the kaleidoscope, and we had things happening. But, it's not really all that disconnected. The trouble is that if you watch it the second time, on January the 5th on BBC. If you watch it the second time, it does grow on you, And this is one thing we forgot, because when you make a record, a lot of people listen to our records and say, well, I don't like that one, And but the second time round, they say, well, it's not bad. And then after a few plays, they say,
but are the BBC going to show it 17 times?
Yes. I've just signed the thing.
Yes, today. Yes. But I mean, this is the interesting thing that it seems to me, is the fact that it didn't get across to a lot of people. Does that fact alter your opinion of it? Do you say, right, it seems to have failed, or do you still think it's precisely as good as if people had said it was very good?
Yeah, I think it's as good, as I always thought it was. But when we were making it, I think all of us thought, well, this has got a very thin plot. We hope this idea of doing a thing without a plot works, because the one thing we're going to be able to say is it hasn't got a plot. But, we thought you don't need a plot. You don't always need one, because like the things you did today probably didn't have much of a plot. So,
I was plotting all day.
Yeah.
But no, I can see that. But would you call it a success or a failure today?
It's both. It's a success failure. You can't say it was a success, because the papers didn't like it, and that seems to be what people read, to find out what's a success. But I think it's all right. I think the next one will be a lot better, and it'll have a fat plot. As opposed to a thin plot.
As opposed to a thin plot. But I mean, what is success then? What's a success? How would you define that?
I don't know. I wouldn't try. I suppose, if I don't know how many people liked it, who saw it. I suppose, you could take a...
How many people here liked it?
Oh, there's a few, It wasn't much of a success.
They like you much more than they liked it. But I mean, well, you better watch it again and again on BBC, of course.
17 times.
17 times. But I mean, this is the thing that comes back. This seems to be a fascinating thing about any work of art or anything. Can it be a success when people don't like it? It can still to you.
Yeah,
what matters most to you?
Yeah, right. I mean, it obviously matters. If this morning we'd have woken up to find fantastic reviews and everyone said, wow, it's the greatest thing ever, then we would have all said, well, it's a success, and I wouldn't have been on tonight, David. But it doesn't matter all that much, because people said about some of our records, like Strawberry Fields and I Am the Walrus, to name but two, they said those are terrible, it's terrible, you can't do that. You can't talk about letting knickers down on telly, you can't say it. But you can, I've just done it. And it's all right, because especially like in about a year or two, I think these things that didn't look like successes will look a bit more like success now, as people get into that kind of thing.
You said today somewhere, if your first film, the first film that you've made yourself, if your first film had been a rave, there wouldn't have been any point in doing any more. What did you mean?
Well, there would have been a point, but it wouldn't have been as much of a challenge to do the next one. At least now we know that we've got not all that much to live up to with our first film.
Apparently it was a deliberate plan.
That's what it was.
Increased response to the second one.
Yeah, no, I mean,
order to get on this program as a failure.
Yes.
But I mean, in terms of the general overall message, to come back to that, how often do you have a message? I know messages are awful word, and therefore one immediately says, no, I don't have a message because it's a corny word. I mean, do you often say, I hope a point gets across to people out of that thing?
No, I never say that. But anything has a message. Everything has a message. But that's why, it's a terrible word, because you can't just pick out one little thing and say, is that got a message? Everything we do is never intended to have a really great, deep message. But it has. It's like everything you do and like everything everybody does. It's got a fantastic message. But we never intended to have it.
No, when John and Paul were talking, well, Rarities, for instance, they were saying...
John and George.
Yes, you're Paul.
Yes, that's
you're Paul. And he's still. He was saying that the main sort of point of his message was sort of know thyself and so on. Is that the point of what you do too?
Yeah. It's the point of what everybody's doing. It's got to be. It's the only point in anything anybody does ever is to just get to know what it is you're doing. You know, well, I mean, we don't do it deliberately. We don't sit around thinking, right, okay, we've got to get this message over in our songs. We just do songs. You know? But if you ask the question about the message, I think there is one there. I still don't know what it is.
It's there, but you don't know what it is.
But I'm trying.
And by the 17th time, you'll know.
I should know, yeah.
But I mean, what do you all sort of, when you approach something like this, do you all equally feel the same sort of thing? I mean, like, do you all equally feel the same about? I mean, you don't, obviously, in the sense you're individuals. But I mean, like, do you all have a sort of kinship of feeling about the Maharishi or about the approach to this film, for instance, or do you all not?
No, you know, like any four people, it's, you know, it varies. We don't all exactly feel the same thing. It's pretty near, though, you know, that's why we've kept going as we have, you know, because we happen to be pals. So, you know, we've got nearly the same kind of attitudes about most things.
And you'll be able to keep going because of that? I mean...
yes, you know, I can't see us stopping.
I don't think anyone can. But how do you characterise yourself? I mean, it's very clear, isn't it, in the four, people, I mean, in terms of the visual things, yeah, people think of sort of Ringo as, I mean, in the visual things, I mean, not particularly in private life, as the sort of clown, and George as the sort of mystic, and John as the rebel. In those sort of caricature categories, what would you come out?
Oh, I don't know. I keep hearing that I'm the cute one. Well, that's what some fella used to say, you know. I don't know.
What do you put on your passport, actually, against occupation?
Cute. No, you know, music.
You've had, what, sort of 5 years of all this now, looking at everything from a very special vantage point. Do you, in general, sort of respect the human race and all that more now, having seen it at close range in this way for 5 years, or less?
Yeah, of course, you know, the human race, it's fantastic. What the human race does, you know, I'm not so keen on that as I used to be.
How do you mean?
Well, the human race does, you know, some fantastic things, and that's another program.
You know, we'll get into this.
Okay. Well, you know the kind of thing I mean. You know, that before you come into showbiz, you tend to think, well, you know, it's great and it's fantastic, all the glamour at the top, you know, and that's my aim in life, is to be rich and famous, and you can't see much more beyond that. You know? But of course, when you're rich and famous, you start to wonder what it is you're actually sort of doing, you know, and it can be disappointing if you suddenly realise that everyone is fighting and everyone is, you know, messing it up generally for themselves, folks. Well, you know, I don't blame you, because I do it too. But we've got to get together on this thing, David.
Right, Paul. What did you decide when you were rich and famous was the point of what you were doing?
The point, I can't see a point, you know. I think that the point is just to do it to the best of you, all that. To do it as best as you can, you know, and try and help, you know. That's the only point I can see, is just to try and help yourself and others. It sounds very Christian, and it is, you know.
What are people doing, in a sense, to mess things up for themselves?
Oh, for a kick-off, you know, people still believe that thing about, well, it's okay, you know, we've got to fight, because if we don't fight, they'll fight us. You know? And so everyone keeps the myth of war going. And that's got to be a bit silly, because they're killing each other off and fighting and shooting and that. You know, that thing. And then all the little follow-ups to that kind of thought.
What are the little follow-ups?
I can't think, there's a lot of them. You know, I mean, everything that people normally call bad, you know, there's a lot of it, you know, and everyone knows there is. And the best thing you can do normally is just to say, well, you know, turn the telly over, dear, you know, because it might be good on the other side. But it's that point, you know, where you turn the telly over rather than do something. And I do it too, you know. I don't always get out there and, you know, fight with you, I just try and stop them, you know. It's that point where probably people could sort it out instead of turning over, if everyone got down to it. Well, I mean, how do you do that? You know, how do you get everyone to get down to that?
Because, I mean, it always strikes me that while you're associated with all the sort of, new movements that come up, or whether people call them flower power or whatever like that, that you particularly tend to become impatient with simplified, vague explanations. I mean, I imagine to you the phrase, make love, not war, for instance. Does that seem to you a satisfactory phrase or a totally unsatisfactory phrase because it's too vague?
Oh, it's all right, the bits I don't like are the flower power and the mergy beat, and that simplification there. I don't mind the slogans that come out of it as long as they're good ones, like make love, not war. Yeah, it is oversimplified, but the slogan's got to be. You can't have make love but try to avoid the
degree of arms. Yes. But I mean, to what extent do you feel I mean, you've got a great influence on people. To what extent do you feel responsible for the effect that you can have on people in the sense that they'll do what you say? I mean, the obvious example is when you say something about LSD or something, people are slightly more likely to do what you say.
Well, I don't feel responsible because I'm always a bit suspicious of people who say they're responsible, because they're not really straight, ordinary people. They always seem to be, it always seems to be a politician getting up and saying, these boys are responsible for the nation's morals. And he says, and I am, and we'll do our best when we get in, if you elect us. And when we get in, they don't, And they're not really responsible. People that say they're responsible always cop out on the responsibilities. So I don't feel really responsible. But at the same time, I'm not trying to hinder things.
Now, for instance, when you said the thing, I know it's months old.
On LSD, well, they asked me, that's the trouble. They said to me, have you ever had LSD? And I said, yes. And that was it, And it was a big newspaper story, and I was made to look as though I'd said to the whole nation, take LSD, and I hadn't. I just said, yes, I've taken it. And maybe it would have been better. I said, no, I haven't. But maybe it would have also been better if they hadn't have asked me.
Right. And what would you say now to the young people in this audience about drugs?
Don't bother, there's not much point. They're not... I don't know, there's no need for drugs, but there's no need for a lot of things. There's no need for alcohol either, and there's no need for something. It goes on and on. But you can't just say drugs, because when you say drugs, you've got to say, and also don't drink whiskey, and don't, and then you sound like one of those fellas that says it. And I'm not.
The difference being obviously that we've got the problem with alcohol and we can do without. Everyone having the problem with drugs.
I don't think there's any need for drugs anyway.
Is there anything else that if you ran into tomorrow some of your contemporaries in Liverpool 6 years ago, is there anything that with the fantastically special life you've had in the last 5 years that you've learned that you could tell them that they might not have realised about living?
I don't know really. There's a lot of hints I could offer. I don't know if I'd be able to take them because I don't think I would have ever taken them. There's a lot of hints about if you're trying to make money. Because that is very easy, really. A lot of people don't realise how easy it is. Because a lot of people work there, with the boss there, with there and there and there, and are satisfied to do that. And yet at the same time, they always say, well, look, I want to be there. They never make any effort to be there. And in fact, it's not very difficult to do that.
How is it easy to make money?
Well, you know.
Yes,
at one stage you would
what I do, yes.
It was very difficult.
Get a group of sailors together and do a project. But I wouldn't say it's easy. This is the interesting thing. You've got hints to people that it's easy. We've got a way for people to make money in the second half of the program with cockroach racing, but we'll come to that later. But I wouldn't say it's easy. That's the difference.
Well, I think that I've always found it difficult to make money when I wasn't being myself. I really found it because I was being the fellow in that position. That's what I thought I had to be in order to make money on yesterday. But I never realised that, in fact, if you're in that position, producing a show or something, you want the fellow in this position to be himself and not to say, yes, sir, sorry, sir. You want him to say, well, look, I've got a good idea for this. What I think is, like he would when he gets home from work, He says, this is a boss today. Well, I could have told him a thing or two. We should do.
Yeah, but our boss is as lovely as that.
No, no, and that brings me to bosses, you know, because they should do the same thing. They don't realise it either.
Because surely the difference is that you and I are in areas like television or music or whatever, where there isn't a great organisation and a great system and sort of individual people with ideas. At least there's a way for them to express their ideas. But there may not be that in, for instance, the police force or, you know, in the garment industry or something like that.
Yeah, well, okay, I can only speak for my bit of it, you know. I could tell them how to make money in entertainment. I wouldn't offer advice on the police.
Paul McCartney, this is it. But, I mean, what about the rest? Anything else other than the money side that when you meet those contentious?
Advice? No, the only advice, you know, I mean, is the one that I've always had of people when, you know, what's it like? To always be yourself, you know.
And a lot of things you don't take advice, do you? I mean, you...
Well, because the advice is often to not be yourself, you know. It's like the show last night, you know, the advice, really, had we had taken it after today's series, would have been, now, you get a good choreographer, lads, and a good director, you know, a good director, producer, and get a lot of money behind you, and we'll have 5,000 dancing girls, and we'll have you hanging from a Christmas tree, you know. And it'll be great because it'll be festive, and it's true, you know, it would have been great and festive and everything, but we thought, well, we'll try it our way, you know, and if it doesn't quite work, well, all right, you know. So, you know, it doesn't matter too much that it wasn't the success that we hoped, you know, for that reason, because we still at least were able to be ourselves and do what we thought was right.
But what, what you think is right next time may be different as a result of this experience.
Yes, it will be, yes. But that's the only way we can learn, you know. If we learn by putting ourselves in somebody else's hands and then letting them say, well, look, you've got to do this and vaudeville here and vaudeville there, you know, then it wouldn't be us doing it. And that's always been the point of what we've done. You know, we've always just made records according to how we thought they should have been made. And a lot of people said, well, that's not the way they're doing it now, you know. And we said, well, we quite like them, you know, give it a go. We'll carry on, we'll do them like this, and see if you like them when you get used to them. Yeah. And it's worked.
It's working fantastically in the music area. The thing about, I mean, the staggering thing is obviously the degree to which any learning you've got to do is so much in public, isn't it?
Yes, that's the trouble.
You know, you can't do it privately. No. We'll take a break there. Paul stays for the great top rope race, the art of the foot and mouth everywhere. We'll be back in a sight.
2 hours of music from the new Beatles double LP that's released on Apple Records tomorrow. This show is brought to you by the Daily Express, and with me tonight, Paul McCartney and Judith Simons of the Daily Express. We're going to talk about the LP, and I know that you're going to enjoy it. Well, Paul, I'd like you to talk about the LP in general.
What do you want to say about it, Tony?
The songs, I think, perhaps a surprise to some people, because I think a lot of people expected another step from Sgt. Pepper.
Well, it is another step, you know, but it's not necessarily in the way people expected. On Sgt. Pepper, we had more instrumentation than we never had, more orchestral stuff than we'd ever used before. So it was more of a production. But we didn't really want to go overboard on that this time. And we've tried to play more like a band this time, only using instruments when we have to, instead of just using them for the fun of it.
Is this for any sort of concept of being able to do the things live?
Yeah, and also for the concept that we like playing together. That's the main concept.
It's becoming quite a word. The first track on the LP is Back in the USA.
It sure is, Tony. You're quite right, boy.
Can we just talk about this particular track, because it's a
Back in the USSR.
Yeah, it's a wild rocking thing.
Yeah, that's a track which it just sort of came. Because Chuck Berry once did a song called Back in the USA, which is very American, very Chuck Berry, very sort of he was serving in the army, and when I get back home, I'm gonna kiss the ground, and I can't wait to get back to the States. And it's a very American sort of thing, I've always thought, that kind of. So this one is like about, in my mind, it's just about a spy sort of who's been in America a long, long time, some fella who's been in America a long time, and he's picked up and he's very American, but he gets back to USSR, you know, where and he's sort of saying, you know, leave it till tomorrow, honey, to disconnect, you know, to disconnect the phone and all that, and come here, honey, and with Russian women and that. You see, what it is, it concerns the attributes of Russian women. Soul element created by George's guitar and heavy brass. Flip side flapper.
Cliff Bennett is releasing this as a single. Have you heard this particular take yet?
No, I haven't heard this particular take, but it concerns the attributes of Russian women. Soul element created by George and heavy brass.
Let's hear it right away. Back in the USSR.
I like this kind of music, you know, I like most kinds of music, so that I haven't got a bag, as they say, except the big black one in the hall outside. And this, you know, this Oblada, and USSR, and Martha and that, like are three different songs altogether. In fact, all of mine are on the LP. But I can't really say anything about that. I'm pretty diverse. You know what I mean? I haven't got one sort of thing. So this, I've no idea why it's Jamaican or anything. Just because I like that kind of thing.
Did you write the song on your own? I mean, this isn't a combination of the Lennon-McCartney thing.
I think it was mainly me. John's a bit more Nigerian influenced.
Let's hear the Jamaican track right now. This is a ballad that's very interesting. Perhaps, although you didn't sing this particular song, you'd like to talk about it, Paul.
Well, I only like to talk about it because I like it, you know. It's a favourite of mine. The idea of the happiness of the warm gun thing is from an advert in an American paper. Where it said, you know, happiness is a warm gun sort of thing, and it was sort of get ready for the long hot summer with a rifle, you know, come and buy them now. It was an advert in a gun magazine, you know, and it was so sick, you know, the idea of come and buy your killing weapons and come and get it. And it was just such a great line, that happiness is a warm gun, that John sort of took that and uses that as a chorus. Yeah. And the rest of the words, I think they're great words, you know. It's a poem. It's a poem, and it finishes off, happiness is a warm gun. Yes, it is.
Sounds like he's probably fairly serious about...
Well, it's as serious as anyone ever gets, you know. I mean, it's not deadly serious. You know, it's just words, and if you sort of really taxed him on it and said, you know, would you be willing to die for these words? I'm sure he wouldn't. I'm sure it's not really serious. But, they're good words. I'd stick up for anyone who's sort of worried about them, you know. It's just good poetry. Tune. And, you see, I just start singing some words with a tune, and it just, you know what I mean? I don't ever write a song thinking, now I'll write a song about, I do sometimes, but mainly I don't. I mean, I'm doing a tune, and then some words come into my head, you know. And these happen to be Martha, my dear, you know. Although I spend days in conversation. It doesn't mean anything, you know. But those just happen to come into my head. So that's what this song's about. So it is about my dog. But I don't particularly want her to remember me. Like the song is about Martha. I don't mean it, you know. But, like, you make up songs, you know. You don't make up songs trying to make a serious... I don't ever trying to make any sort of serious social point. I just make it because I've got to have words to music, you know. So I make up any kind of... So, you know, you can read anything you like into it, but really, you know, it's me singing to my dog.
Well, over what period, how long a time has it taken you all to get this whole LP together? I mean, write the songs?
Well, since we were in India, we started writing this batch of songs, and we've written a few since. But this is mainly the Indian batch that we've sort of finished. Sounds like consignment of eggs or something.
I think it's quite a beautiful song.
Thank you, Tony. Well, it's simple in concept because we couldn't think of anything else to put on it. And that's what I was saying about the Sgt. Pepper thing. Maybe on Pepper we would have sort of worked on it until we could find some way to put violins or trumpets or something on it. But I don't think it needs it, this one. You know, it's just, there's nothing to the song. It is just one of those pick it and sing it, and that's it. The only point where we're thinking of putting anything on it is where it comes back in at the end. So it stops and then it comes back in. But instead of putting any backing on it, we put a blackbird on it. So there's a blackbird singing at the very end. And somebody said it was a thrush, but I think it's a blackbird.
We'll take your word for it. Blackbird. Paul McCartney with us on the show as well.
I don't know. Rocky Raccoon. I was sitting on the roof in India, just sort of with guitar. John and I were sitting around just playing guitar, and we were with Donovan. And we were just sitting around enjoying ourselves. And I started playing the chords of Rocky Raccoon, just messing around. And originally it was Rocky Sassoon. And then we started making up the words, the three of us, and started just to write them down. They came very quickly. And eventually I changed it from Sassoon to Raccoon because it sounded more like a cowie. So there it is. It's just, these kind of things, you can't really talk about how they come, because they just come into your head, They really do. And it's like John writing his books, There's no... I don't know how he does it, and he doesn't know how he does it, but he just writes. It's like any writer, I think people who actually do create and write, you tend to read it and think, oh, well, now, how did he do that? But it actually does flow, just flows from into their head, into their hand, and they write it down, And that's what happened with this. I don't know anything about the Appalachian Mountains or cowboys and Indians or anything, but I just made it up, And the doctor came in stinking of gin and proceeded to lie on the table. So there you are.
I suppose the idea to do the thing with some sort of an American Western accent also happened this way. Did it just?
Oh, that was just a joke, As most of it is.
But I'm going to leave it all to you. It's called "Why Don't We Do It on the Road?" What, I suppose somebody will say somewhere.
Dance, Tony, dance.
There's also another one of yours called "I Will." We've covered the areas where the songs just seem to come to you and just happen this way. You get ideas. Obviously, this particular track happened the same way. The twangy guitar type thing is used again on this one. There's a slight influence, when I say influence, there's a lot of sort of, I suppose, music that you could call rock and roll in this LP, isn't there?
Yes, well, we are. We've always been a rock and roll group, I suppose. It's just that we're not just completely rock and roll. That's what I was trying to say before about Obla the USSR birth. All the different kinds of things. We're not just completely one kind of group. Because like when we played in Hamburg, we didn't just do rock all evening, because we had these, sort of fat old businessmen coming in and saying, or thin old businessmen as well, but coming in and saying, play a mambo, can you do a rumba? And we couldn't just keep saying no, so we had to get into mambos and rumbas a bit. So that this kind of thing, it's a pretty sort of smoochy ballad, I Will. So we have to do that kind of stuff, So we've always played a lot of kind of things, So I don't know if it's getting off the subject, but that's why there's a great variety in this LP, because in our things, in everything we do, we just haven't got one bag, the Beatles, I mean, because on one hand you'll get something like I Will, and then you'll get Why Don't We Do It in the Road, just completely different things, completely different feelings, but it's me singing both of them. It's the same fella, and I wrote both of them, so that you can't explain it. I don't know why I do Why Don't We Do It in the Road, shouting it like that, with a piano and just a rock and roll thing, and then do this sort of smoochy Latin American girl from Ipanema. Take it away, Paul. Rock and roll.
The next track is back in the old rock and roll style, which I guess we've already really covered. But once again, this is a very loud type, if you like, discotheque type number.
Good story about that, Tony. What happened was The Girl Can't Help It was on television. That's an old rock film.
Right.
With Little Richard and Fats Domino and Eddie Cochran and a few others, Gene Vincent. And we wanted to see it. So we started recording at 5 o'clock. And we said, well, we'll just do a backing track. We'll make up a backing track. So we kept it very simple, 12-bar blues kind of thing, and we stuck a few bits here and there in it, with no idea what the song was or what was going to go on top of it. We just said, okay, 12 bars in A, then we'll change to D, and then we'll do a few beats in C. We really just did it like that, random thing. And then we came back, because we didn't have time for anything else, and so we just recorded this backing. And we came back here to my house and watched The Girl Can't Help It. Then we went back to the studio again, and then made up some words to go with it all, which were, they say it's your birthday, well, it's my birthday too, yay. And so this song was just made up in an evening. We hadn't ever thought of it before then. And it's one of my favourites, because of that. I think it works, because it's a good one to dance to. Like the big, long drum break was just because instead of, normally we might have sort of 4 bars of drums. But with this, we just said, no, keep it going, let's keep it, we all like to hear just drums plodding on. So, no more explanation. It's called Birthday.
There's another track that you use acoustic guitar, and there's probably more acoustic guitar used in this set of tracks than you've ever used before.
Yes. Well, it's the same thing again. We wrote them with guitars, and John, on a lot of his, John picks the guitar, because he learned off Donovan when we were in India. Donovan showed him how to finger pick. So he sort of stuck it in everything then. And while he was learning finger picking, I was sort of playing acoustic as well, acoustic guitar. So that's it. That's why they crept in like this. We decided not to try and cover them up like we might do normally, and just use the acoustic guitar instead of, say, a piano or an electric guitar or anything. So the only thing about this one, however, it says, born a poor young country boy. And I was born in Walton Hospital, actually. So it's a dirty lie.
Paul, lots of the songs that you do, I imagine the production ideas come to you when you get into the studio after you've written the song. It is true, I mean,
That is quite true, Tony, that is quite true. Accurate observation.
Beautiful track, and a lot of the tracks that you've selected to comment on during this show tonight are some of the big, loud, uptight ones.
Well, the only ones I'm commenting on are the ones I sort of wrote or have a lot to do with. Because I don't want to go commenting on John's songs in case I'm wrong, because he wrote them, most of them. So I don't really want to go into... Anyway, Helter Skelter, that came about just because I'd read a review of a record where it said, and this group, it was about some group, I can't remember, saying, and this group really goes wild, and they just... It's like echo on everything, they're screaming their heads off. And I just remember thinking, it'd be great to do one like that. The pity they've done it, must be great, really screaming record. And then I heard their record, and it was quite straight, and it was very sophisticated. It wasn't rough and screaming and tape echo at all. So I thought, we'll do one like that then. And I had this song called Helter Skelter, which is just a ridiculous song. So we did it like that, because I like noise.
That's the way we'll hear it. Helter Skelter, 5 talky picture feel, somebody once said in the last couple of days. And in fact, this is the sort of thing that I think when I heard it first, the Russ Columbo type thing came to mind immediately. So why?
I've never heard of him. Russ Conway, yes, Russ Columbo. Why did it come to mind? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, it was just that sort of, I suppose, 1920s song, and I can imagine the thing with the guy on stage with the, in this case, you maybe with the megaphone and the cymbal thing and the precise type backing.
Yes, well, I like, my dad's always sort of played fruity old songs like that, and I like them. I like the melody of old songs. And the lyrics as well, there's some old lyrics like, sort of a woman singing about a man, and she's saying, something about, I want to have his initial on my monogram. So, you know what I mean? Yeah. Just good lyrics and just good thoughts that you don't sort of hear so much these days, And so, I would quite like to have been sort of a 1920s writer. Because I like that thing, the top hat and tails and sort of coming onto this kind of number. I like that thing. But, so this is just me doing it, pretending I'm living in 1925.
So it's Honey Po, and we'll goodbye on the show tonight. Thanks very much for the time and your comments, which I know so many million people out there are going to be very interested in. The final track, I suppose, is the wrap-up to the LP and to the show tonight. And I would imagine that a lot of people who are known as standard singers or middle-of-the-road singers in America are probably going to record this track.
Yes. It's very much that kind of track, John wrote it mainly. It's his tune, which is surprising for John, because he doesn't normally write this kind of tune. It's a very sweet tune, and Ringo sings it great, I think. The arrangement was done by George Martin, because he's very good at that kind of arrangement, very sort of lush, sweet arrangement. And that's all I can say about it. It's very sweet, and in fact, it's good night. Well, from Paul McCartney and the Beatles Monthly, thank you.
Well, John, the first track on the LP is the Come Together song, which is your vocal, and is it in fact you wrote the song as well?
Yes.
I've heard whispers that it will be the next American single.
No, if anything, it might be the B-side. I think we'll probably put something out as a single out there. I think that's about the best track on the album, actually, George's track. And they had it, you know how they always get our records before they're out over there somehow. We've got a spy in England who sends them the tapes.
Right.
And they were playing something so much, they had an advance thing of it. They're red hot for it over there, so we'll probably release it over there this year. I don't know what happened here.
Now, the Come Together side is a fairly different song as far as the group's concerned.
The Come Together track?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, I mean, I think it's pretty funky, I'm biased because it's my song, I dig it, And it just happened well, it's a nice funky sound on it.
What was the effect right at the beginning, we're going to hear in a minute, right at the beginning, the sort of whistling tone?
Oh, it's me going on tape echo.
All right, it's sort of compressed then, isn't it?
No, it's not compressed, it's just, I'm sort of going through my hands like that.
Great, okay, well, we'll hear it right now. Come Together. Next track is the one that we were talking about a moment ago, which is Something, and I'm sure I agree that both George's songs on this LP are probably the most commercially he's written.
Yeah.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
I think it's very good, because they're not sort of the good commercial, They're still funky tracks, both of them.
Yes, well, I'd imagine there'll be quite a few cover versions, as always, for singles off this LP, and it would seem that...
Well, we'll get the first cover out, that's the point, Something.
And that'll be the one on American.
Yeah, White Trash have just done, what's the one? Golden Slumbers, from the B-side of the track. Part of the sort of medley part.
Yes.
So they made quite a good version of that and get a plug-in for White Trash.
Why not? Okay, this is George's song that's called Something. Oh, this is, if you go through the LP from top to bottom, it's Paul's first contribution, Maxwell's Silver Hammer, which is I don't know, it's fairly typical of a lot of songs Paul's written, John, do you think?
Yeah, it's a typical McCartney sing-along, or whatever you call them. He did quite a lot of work on it. I was ill after the accident when they did most of that track, and I believe they really ground George and Ringo into the ground recording it,
Now that you're all obviously occupied in diverse facets of the business, are there any tracks that any of you sort of have done on your own, completely on your own on this LP, or have they been a collective effort at some point?
Not really. I wasn't on Maxwell. I think I was on everything else. I was just away for that.
Okay, Maxwell's Silver Hammer, Paul McCartney. It seems, John, that there's a very strong melodic tone, I think there always has been to your music, but in the context of other music that's going on today, Abbey Road has got a lot of very strong melody lines, and I think it's probably not as powerful electronically as say, your last LP, or the Pepper outing.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, what about the end of I Want You,
True,
heavier than that, really.
Yeah. But this, and of course this track, the next one, Oh Darling, is
oh yeah, that's
sort of 58 job, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we like that stuff, Oh Darling.
So this probably ties in with your recent outing in Canada, where you really
the rock and roll revival, yeah. It was fantastic scene.
What actually happened there? Was it a regular rock and roll type concert?
Yeah, they had Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, Jerry Lee Lewis, Little Richard, umpteen others, and the Plastic Ono Band, which is me, Yoko, Eric Clapton, Klaus Voormann, the Manfred Man, and Alan White from Alan Price, or ex-Alan Price.
And you did all rock and roll songs?
Well, when it gets down to the nitty-gritty, I don't know the words to any songs. We ended up, I knew Blue Suede Shoes from the 50s, you know. So we did Blue Suede Shoes, Money, Dizzy. We did Give Peace a Chance, and a new song I'd written called Turkey. And we really blew it, you know. It was great seeing it.
It wasn't going back. It wasn't that revival, but you did was like...
Yeah, we progressed. I think we were the only progressives on it, you know. But we ended up with a complete freak out with Yoko taking over, you know, and Eric and all of us just blowing the amplifiers as much as they'd go, you know.
And was there any rehearsal involved in this, or did you do that when you could?
We tried to rehearse on the plane, but it was impossible. We couldn't hear a thing because we didn't have any amps. And then we did one run-through at the backstage. We went right through the numbers once. But the group were so funky, you know, they just picked it up. You know.
And is there any chance of this being a nucleus of a permanent Plastic Ono band?
It could be, you know, but I mean, everybody's sort of contracted and all things like that, I suppose, Eric and everything. But I think the Plastic Ono band's going to be pretty flexible, you know, because it's plastic.
But it is quite possible. I mean, it's going to be a reality from now on, the Plastic Ono.
Yeah, until we get fed up with it, you know.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it at the moment, you know. We made no plans to go to Toronto. A guy rang up and I thought, who'll come and play live with me, you know? And they were the guys. You know.
Is there any chance of the Beatles playing live again?
I don't know. There's always a chance, you know. But the Beatles playing live is a different matter, you know. We got that great thing to live up to. You know, It's a harder gig. But just for me and Yoko to go out, you know, we can get away with anything. I hope.
Right, well, we'll get down to biz with the Oh Darling track from Paul.
Oh, darling. Bingo, bingo, I'm in love. Tell his eyes.
Thank you. And Ringo's track is the next one, The Octopus's Garden, which reminded me, for some reason, of the Yellow Submarine cartoon film.
Yeah, well, I think it's the bubble, you know, the fact that it's under the sea bit.
I suppose it is, really.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any other connection.
No, except it's about the bottom of the sea, you know, and getting away from it all.
And this is, in fact, the only song that Ringo wrote.
Yeah, well, it'll be a few years before his production is going as fast as ours. It took George a few years.
And is this the only track on the LP that Ringo sings on as well, John?
Yeah, I think he does a bit of harmony here and there, because at the time I was away, they laid a few harmony tracks on some of the medley bit.
Oh, yes.
You know, so I think Ringo's doing a bit of harmony here and there, too.
It's a sing-along sort of song.
It's a ring-along, sing-along, yeah.
Yeah, very good, folks.
Yeah.
Octopus's Garden.
Red is for stop at 208 on the dial. And right now, back to the Abbey Road LP with John Lennon and 208 Program Chief Tony MacArthur.
I Want You, She's So Heavy.
Correct.
Right. I suppose it is the heaviest track on the LP, if we're going to get into that, bagism, is it?
Yeah. It's pretty heavy, the ending, you know. Could we use the Moog synthesizer on it?
Oh, that's what all that electronic bit is.
The range of the sound is from, you know, minus whatever to way over where you can't hear it, you know. That machine, the Moog synthesizer, can do all sound, you know, all ranges of sound, so we did that on the end. So if you're a dog, you could hear a lot more.
So any dogs listening, we'll get this together.
Yeah.
John, when you speak about playing the Moog synthesizer, I understand that there is a guy in the States
robot
who gets it together.
Yeah, George can work it a bit, you know. I mean, it'll take you all your life to learn all the variations on it. But George has got one, and a few people in England have got them, and they're just sort of experimenting with them. He used it on the Billy Preston LP, and it also plays the solo in Because, and I think in Maxwell it comes in too. It's here and there on the album. You know.
So it's a matter of just sort of phasing it out to the sort of music you're doing at the time, is it?
Yes, you can make it play anything, you know, any style or any freaky or just plain. It sounds like trumpets and things if you wanted to.
Can it in fact be sort of set to play a particular pattern?
Yeah, I think it just can go off on its own. I mean, you could get it to play Hare Krishna on its own forever. And see what happens to it.
Yeah, well, holds frightening prospects of a Moog synthesizer concert at some point.
Yeah, well, I mean, that would be a great plastic ono band, with a Moog synthesizer that just went on and sang and played everything on its own.
Because I suppose, technically the notes would be all perfect anyhow, wouldn't they?
Yeah. They just need one guy to switch it on,
And then leave and go and collect the tickets on the door. Yeah. Okay, this is the track called I Want You, She's So Heavy. Which is, again, another very catchy melodic song.
Yeah, it reminds me of sort of Buddy Holly in a way.
Yes, I see what you mean. It's certainly that very strong melody line again. Is there any... I don't suppose there is any reason for when people write songs, but it seems such a dramatic change for George.
I don't know, I mean, it's just the way he's progressing. He's writing all kinds of songs, I mean, once the door opens, the floodgates open, You can't sort of... It's an effort to concentrate on writing certain kinds of songs, Like, I prefer writing just non-melodic, straight rock. But I can't help writing other things, and I think that applies to all of us. Just the songs just come out,
John, when you got this LP together, did you select from like a large number of tracks, or did you virtually have a,
Not from a large number of tracks, from a large number of songs, you see. Each of us have got, maybe about 10 songs to contribute to an album. You can't get them all on, so when it's your turn to record, as it were, you've got to sort of pick the one you want on most, really.
And so then, I suppose it gets to a point of musical balance of the LP too, does it?
Yeah, it gets into that.
Right. George Harrison's song, it's called Here Comes the Sun. The next track is another song of yours, John, that's called Because, and I seem to detect some sort of classic overtone in this. Is this by design, or...?
Yeah, sort of, Yoko plays classical piano, and she was playing one day, and... I don't know whether it was Beethoven or something. I said, give me them chords backwards. And I wrote Because on it, on top of it. Oh, Moonlight Sonata, backwards.
Backwards.
Something like that, yeah.
It also had, the harmony structure is also slightly different from some of the harmonies that you've used in recording before.
I wouldn't know, I mean, I just asked George Martin or whoever's around, said, what's the alternative to thirds and fifths? They're the only ones I know. And he plays them on the piano. He said, we'll have that one, So I couldn't tell you what they are. I just know it's harmony.
Right. Well, this is also a very long song, isn't it?
It isn't. It's only. It's amazing. It's the shortest one on the album. It's only about 2 minutes or something.
Oh, well, of course, it sort of gets into the.
It stops and then he goes into the medley.
Right. Now well, let's get into it right now, and we'll talk about the medley in a moment. It's a song called Because. The medley comes next on the LP, and this is really a sort of a whole piece of music joined to repetitive phrases come back all the way through it.
Yeah. It was also a good way of getting rid of bits of songs we'd had for years.
So this is, again, was a collective piece of songwriting, but it wasn't any...
Yeah. I mean, George and Ringo, in fact, sort of wrote bits of it as we did it, literally, sort of in between bits and breaks into it. Paul would say, we got 12 bars here, let's fill it in, and we'd fill it in on the spot.
I've noticed a couple of the songs also linked together, some of the characters.
Oh, yeah, well, that was just luck, I mean, the bit, my contribution to it is Polythene Pam and Sun King and Mr. Mustard, so we just juggled them about till it made vague sense. And in Polythene Pam, Mr. Mustard, I said his sister Pam, and originally it said his sister Shirley in the lyrics, so I changed it to Pam and make it sound like it had something to do with it.
Okay, well, we'll get into the first part of the medley, which is, as we get into this is a sort of another scene with Paul and this piano.
Yes.
First part. Was this Paul on piano?
Oh, he's always on piano. You can't get him off.
Okay, you never give me money.
Right. Well,
the next track in the medley is the Sun King song.
That's where we pretend to be Fleetwood Mac for a few minutes.
And then you get into a sort of a language thing, which I couldn't figure out if it was some type of...
it's cod, you know.
Yeah.
See, we did the introductions. We call it the sun riff, you know, the little instrumental bit was like Fleetwood Mac before we start singing. Then we did it again on the end. So when we came to sing it, to make them different, you know, so it wasn't just the same riff, we just started joking, you know, sing Cuando para mucho. So we just made up, Paul knew a few Spanish words from school, you know. So we just strung any Spanish words that sounded vaguely like something. And of course we got chickafurdy, and that's a Liverpool expression, just like sort of, it doesn't mean anything, but you know, chickafurdy. The one we missed, we should have had paranoia, you know, but we forgot all about it. We used to call ourselves Los Paranoias.
And so then what, you know, was the sort of any idea behind Sun King? Is it any sort of symbolism, or is it just...
No, it was just half a song I had, which I never finished, which was one way of getting rid of it without ever finishing it, you know. And it sort of, you know, the sort of medley went, and then we sort of wanted a change of atmosphere, so then here comes the Sun King, you know, why not? And here he comes, and everybody's happy, and Cuando para mucho, etc., etc.
Paranoia.
Yeah, we might get a hit with that in those countries, you know, if they take it off separate.
Could be a smash in Brazil.
Yeah, right.
The Sun King.
Cake and eat it is another nice line too, because they have that in Spanish, queja or something. So we just have cake and eat it.
Okay, well, we'll have a track now called Sun King. Reminded me of the sort of songs that are probably about the Revolver time. I think it was that sort of tempo and that sort of.
Yeah.
Is it a song that you had from way back, or?
I had it. I wrote it in India. So that was pre the Beatles double album, so it's that old. And it was from some newspaper clipping that the title was Me, Mr. Mustard, about some guy done something or other. You know, but of course the story's nothing like it, you know, it was like the newspaper title heading.
Yeah, because in fact it's quite short as well.
Yeah, well that's another half a song which I never finished, you know, so I put it in there.
Mean Mr. Mustard.
Mean Mr. Mustard sleeps in the dark, shades in the dark, trying to save paper.
From Mean Mr. Mustard straight to Polythene Pam, who turned out to be Mean Mr. Mustard's sister. And this is sort of getting back into your actual rock and roll again, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit like everything, in a way, sort of not fade away, and some, you know, summertime blues and everything. That's another half a song I wrote in India, you know, about kinky girl in a polythene bag, you know.
Well, it was the pre-bagism days.
Oh, yeah,
wasn't it?
Yes. Well, polythene bags is
see-through polythene bag.
Yeah, right. That's what she wears, you know. See her in drag in a polythene bag.
Okay, well, we'll just take a look at Polythene Pam. We're in the press that this was an idea that Paul had about, I think, during one of the American tours, a fan.
It was, no. It was when Paul and I went to America to publicise Apple about 2 years ago to announce the opening. And we were just in the flat we were staying in, and he just came out with that line, you know. She came into the bathroom window, so he'd had it for years, so he eventually finished it.
And so this was another song that was sort of started back then?
Yeah, most of them are, you know, except for the You Never Give Me Your Money and Golden Slumbers.
So she came in through the bathroom window.
Yeah.
Look out.
She came in through the bathroom window. Oh, yeah.
On to Golden Slumbers and strings this time, John.
Yeah. Paul laid the strings on after we'd finished most of the basic track, you know.
Yeah, it seems to me that I think a lot of people had expected that you would perhaps become more complex with, you know, musical additions on this LP, but...
well, I don't know what... You know, they shouldn't expect anything. I personally can't be bothered with strings and things, you know. I like to do it with the group, you know.
Yeah, because...
whatever, or with electronics, you know. I can't be able to go into that hassle with musicians and all that bit, you know. It's such a drag, you know, trying to get them together, but Paul digs that. So that's his scene.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was up to him where he went with the violins, really, what he did with them. And I think he just wanted a straight kind of backing, you know, nothing freaky. You know. The White Trash have made a single out of this, folks.
And, well, have they used strings on it? Or?
Yeah, they've used strings, and they've done some... It's pretty similar to the track we did, except they've done some nice things with a big organ, like a church organ playing a solo or something.
that is also rather different for them because they've been enormously sort of gutsy and...
Yeah, well, they've done it quite gutsy. You know, the song is sort of vaguely gospel-y in a way. You know, sleep, little darling, don't you cry. All that bit is a bit gospel-y.
And were any of you involved with the production of this?
Not of the White Trash. No, they did it completely. I don't know who produced it, you know. But they had a good start, the Beatles album.
Yes, it's true. So
they've done a good job of it. I hope they get a hit.
Right. So we'll hear the Beatles singing Golden Slumbers. Get to the track now called Carry That Weight, which I think sort of features everybody.
Yes. That's the sort of... it's really like the Maxwell Silver Hammer story again, really. Like, they've all got a great load to carry, you know. But that's part of Golden Slumbers, really.
Yeah, well, it's a sort of a logical follow, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of the one song, really. That's the sort of chorus of Golden Slumbers.
And this has also been covered by somebody, I read.
Well, no, White Trash has done... we keep going back to this all the time, but they've done Golden Slumbers, including Carry That Weight, you know, as the one song.
Oh, I see. Right. And was this one that you all wrote, or was this a...
No, it's Paul's line.
Paul's line. Fine.
As far as I know, no.
Nobody told you otherwise.
Oh, no, I mean, it could be George or Ringo for all I know. But I presume it's Paul.
Okay, Carry That Weight. And now we sort of move fairly logically to the end, which is a way to finish it up, wasn't it?
Get out of that.
Yeah.
So we got
a way to close the show.
Yes.
And there's really not much more to be said about that, but we will come back after we...
What about Her Majesty?
Well, why don't we play the end first, and then...
Okay.
Well, then we'll let the silence run and do that.
Oh, yeah, so you're going to do it properly, okay.
Majesty's a very fine girl, and one day I'm going to make her mine. It's got to be a fairly strong line, I think. Actually, when the double LP was released, at the time I did a similar program with Paul.
Yeah.
He played this to me.
Oh, did he?
At that time, yeah. In fact, it was on that tape when we were sort of just getting levels and things. And,
I see. Well, I think he did it again for this.
Yes, well, I'm sure he did, but he decided to sort of throw it away.
Yeah, he's had it round. You know, we always have tons of bits and pieces, you know, lying around for years. I've got stuff that I wrote around Pepper, you know, just still... Because you start to lose interest in it a bit after you've had it for years, so I've never recorded it.
Do you ever sort of consider, giving this material to anybody else to record?
Yes, I keep meaning to... There's just one particular song I keep meaning to make a demo of, you know, to give to somebody or other, but I never get round to it, you know. So no doubt somebody will hound me for it now.
Yes, I'm sure they will. The fact that Her Majesty isn't listed on the sleeve is that any particular reason?
We like to have a joke at the end, you know, or a surprise, like on the end of, was it Pepper or the Beatles double? Just something.
There was one on the end of Pepper, I can remember.
Yeah, and wasn't the...
Which was something at double speed.
Yeah, was that the one everybody thought was something obscene?
Yes, that's right.
And it never was, you know.
All sorts of conjecture.
If you play it backwards and all that.
Yeah, all that scene, yeah.
Well, we listened to it backwards. It seemed to say something obscene, but we had no idea. Just one of those things. So this is another one of them, you know.
Okay. John, thanks very much for giving us the time.
It's a pleasure. I'll enjoy listening to myself in bed.
Fine.
Listen to the album.
Just before we close, you can perhaps let us know about the next for you and Yoko, which will be the wedding album.
We've got a wedding album, it's called, you know, coming out in the middle of October, and it's got a lot of pictures and cartoons and press cuttings and things like that written about us there, and some pretty frantic sounds on it. On one side is heartbeats and us two yelling, you know, that's the description of it, but it really makes your hair stand on end. So you'll hear that in October, you know.
Fine. And a single in Britain for the Beatles, is that near the drawing board yet?
Well, if there's something and come together that goes out in the States, it might come out here too, you know, because usually we don't normally have singles in the States without having them here. But I don't know, it's all in the air, you know.